You want me to put that on my todger?
Harry's wife. Their biggest humiliation awaits. What might this be? Well, something called soapoperaspy.com, in an article by Alison de Lorenzo, tells us Prince Harry and Harry's wife might face the biggest humiliation of their lives if they show up at the coronation. Royal family news suggests that even though they were officially invited to the party, that doesn't mean they should show up to it. In fact, there's a new report that suggests Prince Harry and Harry's wife might face the biggest rejection of their lives if they decide to show up at King Charles's coronation in May. After all, they aren't the most popular figures in the United Kingdom right now. According to the Daily Star, royal expert Kinsey Schofield believes that Harry and Harry's wife should sit this one out, as they are not going to get the reception that they are hoping for, both from their royal family members and from the public too. After all, everyone is still in shock after all the things that Harry said and the way he managed to throw the entire royal family under the bus in his book, Wah! Should Harry and Harry's wife arrive in the United Kingdom, they can expect to hear more jeers than cheers. Kinsey put it this way: Harry and Harry's wife want to appear above it all, gracious and forgiving. The Sussexes also realise that their proximity to the royal family increases their commercial value, residual benefit. This is an historic event, and the king will always be Harry's father. With that being said, there is general awareness that attendance at the coronation could be deemed hypocritical by their core fan base. She continued, there could be a negative reaction on the ground, and Harry's wife's biggest insecurity is rejection. That is not a position she wants to put herself in. Booing and hissing from the public on a global stage, humiliating. The palace expects and is planning for the Sussexes to attend, even if it is just a brief appearance from Prince Harry. It would likely be a transactional appearance for both parties. No big reconciliation. Charles would avoid the humiliation of his son not being in attendance, and Harry has material for the paperback edition of Spare. These are the observations that are contained in soapoperaspy.com, reporting what Kinsey Schofield has to say. Charles would not be humiliated, however, by the non-attendance of Harry and Harry's wife. Why? Well, the fact is that they will have told him, if they're not going to come, they will have told him beforehand. And that response, of course, would be challenge fuel, because they would doubtless explain why they weren't attending. And therefore, when they sent that message through, that would be a threat to Charles's control, which he would respond with. Unlikely that he would respond by pleading with Harry to come. He's unlikely to do that. Instead, he's more likely to mutter to Camilla about the way that Harry and his wife have behaved. She'll agree that they're a pair of tossers, and that will give Charles that sensation of control. He will thus smear them to his wife and indirectly assert control over both his son and daughter-in-law. But it won't humiliate him. The fact is that when the coronation takes place, he won't be thinking, oh, I wish my son were here. Instead, Charles will be drinking in the massive amounts of fuel that he'll be receiving as a consequence of a worldwide audience, the number of people that attend for the coronation, the various great and the good that are all there, even though it's going to be a somewhat scaled down occasion. He will not be preoccupied with the issue of his son. Indeed, he probably won't even be thinking about that. So it's not the case that Charles wishes to avoid a humiliation with regard to his son. Far from it. Instead, he's managing his facade by extending the invitation in the first place, which is a sensible thing to do. Because whilst there are many that would rather they not be there, the fact is this. By Charles extending an invitation, it makes him look gracious and fair. They turn it down, it makes them seem like they're churlish, and people will be pleased that they're not attending, but it will seem spiteful by them, and they will then be criticised once again. If they turn up, then humiliation will occur. Humiliation is bound to occur because, 1, they have no popularity as a consequence of the way that they have behaved for years. 2, their lack of popularity has been underlined as a consequence of the content of Why, which we all know Harry's wife had a large part in. 3, the conduct since and in around the use of the titles for the children and their conduct leading up to the coronation will have continued to emphasise that they are not well liked. And therefore, many people who feel a degree of frustration at the conduct of Harry's wife and Harry will see this as an opportunity to express their feelings about the two. As I've explained elsewhere, the most effective thing to do would be for people to turn their backs on Harry and Harry's wife, because that would wound her. She would be given no fuel for the crowd to fall silent and look away from her, to turn its back on her. That would cause major humiliation. And one could imagine that a mid-range narcissist such as Harry's wife would look utterly crushed. If, of course, people boo her, that will still unsettle her, but it's giving her fuel, something that she wants and needs. So whilst it would still be problematic, it would not be as problematic as if people were to ignore her. However, most people are going to find that hard to do, and they will feel more likely and inclined to want to express their disapproval. We heard, of course, at the service of booing last year that she was booed by sections of the crowd. This time, one can envisage that it will be a much larger booing that she and Harry will receive, not only because their popularity has plummeted, but also because there will be many who think you have a barefaced cheek to turn up here. And once again, you're trying to make it all about you, Harry's wife. It might be that they decide not to attend. It might be that her narcissism perceives that it's likely to receive a rough ride, but I don't think that's likely. I think rather that her narcissism's pursuit of the fuel and the residual benefits that come from her attendance will prove too great, and it won't care for the collateral consequence of the booing. It won't even be considering that. Instead, what it'll do is focus on this as an opportunity to assert control over a large audience, that we should be there, we are part of the family, and as another opportunity. And of course, if there's any booing, she will not accept that as legitimate and say, well, I can understand why some people are dissatisfied with me and don't like me. I get that. No, in her world, how dare they? How dare they boo me? I am the great Harry's wife. And instead, once again, she will paint them as deranged haters. Either way, humiliation does await. If, and I do deem it likely that she will turn up, because it's too great an opportunity to miss up, she positively loves the limelight because of what it affords her in relation to the prime aims. I do see that she will turn up, but she will be subjected to humiliation. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.